Get a pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. All right, thank you, everybody. If we could just do quick introductions around the room, that would be great. Mr. Clark, I certainly you, please.
I'm David Clark. I represent Westminster on the high school board.
I'm Priscilla Lambert. I'm here for Rockingham on the Bells Falls Union High School.
Darcy Sprague here for Grafton. June Streeter representing Westminster.
Deborah Wright representing Rockingham.
Jason Terry representing Rockingham.
Any house superintendent?
Mike Stack representing Rockingham.
Jamie Starrow, Westminster.
Rob Wells representing Rockingham. And online we have the principal with us, Ms. Kelly O'Ryan. Thank you for joining us, Kelly.
Good evening.
Is there any adjustments to the agenda? June?
The athletic director isn't going to be here this meeting, so can we just delete that and move it to the next, or table it till the next meeting?
So
H.
do you still want to do HA?
No, because I think he has to be here for that,
Do you want to do the whole thing next meeting?
if he's going to be here.
Okay, we're gonna, all right, we're not gonna do H or HA. What?
Yeah, under 8 committee updates, I'd like to add a D, which will be the SU Finance Committee update. And also I have some material to hand out for our upcoming high school budget committee next Monday, 20th.
Okay, that's just informational stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right, great. And we do have a very full agenda, so. All right, I'm gonna move on to communication and public comments. Do we have any? Yeah,
Well, yes, only that because they're lengthy meetings, some of these are lengthy meetings, I would ask that board members try to be as concise in thought and as much as possible and try to reduce redundancies, which is the same people, different people saying the same things. And it actually gets, I can feel it kind of grinds me, but only because we waste a lot of time doing that. We go round and round in a circle, but we don't get anything accomplished. That's it. Thank you.
thank you, Deb. All right, up next, we have review and approve board minutes. I believe they're for October 23rd. Can I get a motion, somebody?
So those,
Thank you. And since we're all here and nobody's on Zoom, I don't need to do a roll call. All in favor, just say aye or
Aye.
any opposed? All right. And I believe that's it for minutes. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we're caught up. Let's shop Darcy and Tara. New business for discussion. Report from DEC regarding PCBs returning school to full operation. Action item. I believe we all have the report, and I believe that it was actually already reported in the paper.
it was.
So I'd like to just make a motion that we open this school fully under option 3, I believe, which is no restrictions, and we open it tomorrow. That is my motion. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, actually,
Jason, question,
Yep.
does that have to be a specific option, like under option 3?
yeah, so I believe we're opening school fully, option 3, no restrictions.
So option 3, Kelly, here, correct me if I'm to speak here. I believe option 3 allows us full flexibility to use spaces. The one big change was on the options. It went from 26 hours to 45 hours. And that just has to do with limitations. So in some of those areas, we may still try to limit, like the gymnasium, we may still try to limit, how long kids aren't in there for the full time, like an academic wing. So it shouldn't be an issue. But is that correct, Kelly?
That's correct.
So I'm understanding basically no restrictions at all, right?
Correct.
Okay, so motion on the floor. I actually would like to roll call this. David? Yes. Priscilla?
Yes.
Darcy?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Deb?
Aye.
Mike?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Rob? Yes. All right, school is open tomorrow. Well, everything that was closed is open tomorrow. Good luck, Kelly. Thank you for all you guys did. All right, up next, principals report. Kelly, this is yours. Fire away, please.
Sure. So I'll just kind of highlight a couple pieces that I put forward in that report. One is I think there's a lot of great things happening outside of the PCB. Certainly there's some great news tonight, and thank you for the support with the reopening. I think given tomorrow, we've got this surprise delivery. I thought we were just going to be getting our kind of summer furniture order to refresh our library and some of our conference room spaces. But actually, I believe we're expecting all of our furniture that we had ordered in 2 phases. So some of the furniture that we got for the main hallway, for example, to support more student-centered kind of gathering spaces, right? That's some clear feedback that we've gotten from students, that they didn't feel like there was a lot of spaces to kind of congregate with one another outside of the cafeteria or library. So we really focused on trying to shore up some additional spaces like that, in addition to revamping the library and promoting some more accessible seating options. And I believe everything will be arriving tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. So I think by end of day tomorrow, some of our main spaces should have a nice refresh. We've had some, I'm not sure if this will come up later in our facilities or kind of building and grounds committee updates. We have had some facilities issues that we've had to navigate, some fairly significant ones in the sense that they could have resulted in school closure, namely around our boiler. Ran into some issues there. There were 2 separate days where our boiler was non-functioning, and another one where some of our fuses were misfiring, which caused some problems in the building and some concerns around low heat. Fortunately, that was, about a week and a half ago when weather was warmer. So we did not need to close, but we're keeping close tabs on getting that shored up. And the other issue had to do with a failure of our fire alarm system. Again, that was shored up same day, but we still have some long-term work that needs to be done there to ensure that nothing like that happens again. So again, the facilities pieces are still kind of front and center, but I do think we are getting some, making the right connections, and a good plan is falling into place. We did receive a nice financial gift through the JED Foundation to support our ability to partner with them on a 3-year technical assistance grant that's going to focus explicitly on mental health, specifically student mental health in the building. And they're a very strong, reputable organization. I've worked with them in my prior place of employment and have nothing but glowing things to say about the work they're able to provide school communities. I think some of the data points we've gone over in prior meetings around our climate surveys and student experiences of being in the building, in terms of help-seeking behavior, substance misuse, things like that have remained a fairly chronic and persistent need, not just in our building, but in a lot of high schools in the state. And I think JED is well equipped to kind of help us do some additional problem solving around that in terms of our policies and procedures to really support help-seeking behavior and social connectedness across the board. So I'm really excited about that. That is slated to start in February of this year. And again, that'll be a 3-year kind of strategic planning, technical assistance grant that'll be working with a core team in the building. Yeah, beyond that, we're really looking at some great leadership opportunities for students in the building. I know Connor was unable to join us tonight, given that he's up at an athletics leadership conference with, I think, 4 or 5 of our student leaders. And then we have another group coming from the high school, joining with a middle school to kind of relaunch our Getting to Y group, which is really looking at our YRBS data, again, some of that climate data that we've been getting every other year, and really having the students in particular put fresh eyes on that data set and really kind of partner with them and bringing forward some of their vision for how to address some of the concerns that are coming through in that data set. So I'm really excited about that piece in particular. Yeah, so I'll just kind of pause there and open it up to any questions on that report or anything that's been put forward.
Any questions for Kelly? I see June's hand first.
Kelly, it looked like your report was cut off. Did we get the whole thing?
Yeah, I had replied to email. There was a closing few sentences specific to the KI furniture delivery that's scheduled for tomorrow morning. So I did reply to that email to include that piece that was cut off. Sorry, I sent that very early this morning and did not ensure. And then, yeah, so my signature in that last piece was not included.
David?
Yeah, Kelly, have we canceled modulars?
That's a great question. No, we have not canceled the modulars. We still have the 4 modulars on site. They are still going to be the home for some of our support services team and the transportation team for the duration of the year. We do have a 12-month lease on those 4 modulars, and that lease is supported by the DEC, even with the shift to our full reopening. We did clear that with the DEC that they will still support the funding for that. And that will still be helpful as we look to phase in our work with the science rebuild in particular. We do have to relocate 2 of those science classrooms in anticipation of the start of the new year. And so the spaces that transportation and the support services are coming out of will be the spring's term home for those 2 science classes in particular. So the modulars are on site. The open question will be the 2 that we currently have reserved for locker rooms. How we can kind of recalibrate to use those spaces with more intention with the reopening of our gym. But those will remain on site. I think the lease is through the end of July. Andy, is that right?
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt, guys. Simply said, thank you, Kelly.
I don't have the lease in front of me. I have to pull it up to know the exact deadline date, but.
Good. Any other questions for Kelly? Okay, great. Thank you, Kelly. Up next, we have buildings and grounds update from November 8th, 2023, informational. So can I get one of the people who were there to kind of recap it quickly? Rob, David, Priscilla, Mike, anybody?
Okay, we were presented with a proposal for a 5-year plan to try to stay on top of facilities maintenance. I know exactly where it is on my desk at home, but I cannot speak to you about specifics without having it in front of me, but I see that you have it in front of
You
you.
guys send David?
Thank you. And I think my summary is going to be that we were able to price some items, and helpful if everyone had this, maybe we've already reviewed it, and we have other items still to go. I think that what we have here, although trying to think how best to express this, we have some items which we're going to try to get done. And Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, please, such as security upgrades that we'd like to get done during the current year. And then we have other items, we're still, for instance, having a discussion around library, because it seems to be a general consensus that the seating in the library needs to be replaced, but I don't believe that's been set on schedule as of right now. And then there are other items. We're still talking about improvements to tennis courts and what we're going to do with track. which are, what I would refer to as simply ongoing. So my best advice is to stay tuned to the buildings and grounds. We can make our next meeting. I'm not sure when that meeting is. We set a date, but I don't think we did.
Yeah, we did. I don't have it right in front of me, but I know we did set a date. I wrote it down on my agenda from last time, but it's been a few weeks.
November 30th at 4 o'clock. It says on the minute.
November 30th, 4 p.m.
November 30th, 4 p.m.
All are welcome to come. Rob, anything on the buildings ground?
No, I think to David's point, just having, having Kelly and her staff putting together a 5-year plan so that, and we talked about this during the Buildings and Grounds Committee, is so that there's a plan moving forward and that we know it's gonna be fluid, but that we have a driven identity of what really needs to be looked at in an aging facility.
Yeah, well said. Priscilla, you were there. Anything on that?
I think you covered it well.
No, I would just repeat what David said. Basically, Jeff and Kelly gave us a ranked list of projects that they'd like to attack in 25, and then some of these projects, things like flooring would go out over multiple years. To me, it's important because one of the things that we've been looking for is to bring this kind of expenditure into the budget. Some of these things have been neglected, and to incorporate it in the budget this year, I think it's important to acknowledge we have to keep spending on these things as we go. So I think this was a great exercise by Jeff and Kelly, and I think that's exactly. I mean, obviously, it's very different than the bigger dollars that ESSER is, but this is kind of the ongoing maintenance that we do to continue to pursue this forward as part of our budget.
Thanks, Mike. Jamie, you have a question?
Yeah, I love seeing this. I thought this was really helpful to kind of lay out what needs to get done. It's a little overwhelming to see. I think it's great. One question I had though, you all discussed the idea of evaluating the useful life of the building, just to determine the infrastructure, the safety, everything that this building currently has. So is there a plan to do that, kind of before some of these big projects take place?
Go on, that's my name. I don't think we're there, but I know,
I can't answer to what the discussion was.
so I think the discussion basically was, we want to make sure that we're not gonna put, a ton of money into
You don't have to be a money pit
yeah,
situation.
1950 MG car.
Mhm.
You don't want to do that.
I mean, there's a couple things I was gonna ask. So a report from the state came out, very similar to, not what you saw,
Yeah,
very similar to the report, the engineering report that we had already done. And so Kelly, I don't believe that got incorporated into yours because it might have come out after you guys did that work. And we sent that to the building principals and heads of maintenance to ask them to look at those two documents side by side, because they push out 10 years and they talk about all the different infrastructure pieces. So they came into our building and actually walked around and looked at all these different things. And so in looking at it, there's some price point differences, but you also have the criterion. One was done a couple of years ago, and this one was done recently, but there's also the states is based on replacement of in kind, not like upgrading to what the current status would be. So but it gets into a lot of the different things around replacing windows and replacing, pieces that you're talking about that may not have made it into that list, that are just the everyday kind of maintenance piece. So that's going to be some continued work that the building's going to need to do to kind of look at that. I've also reached out to Steve Horton just to kind of pick his brain around the question about like engineering and having an engineer come in, because again, I know that he's had some folks look at the different parts, especially like around the roof and stuff like that. So, but we can get more from him. I believe he's scheduled to come in here and talk to you all. Yeah, so I'm sure, he'll have that information.
I know, I saw recently the Burlington School is needing an additional $20 million on top of their tear down. And I know that, you know, like when I costed it out from, you know, just rough math, you know, building a school half the size would cost like 90 million bucks. So that's what we'd be paying for. So that's a big chunk of change. So, you know, hopefully we get it done right. And the other thing we talked about in the buildings and grounds is, we want to try to put something in place, you know, a 5-year plan that's not like, you know, every year we kind of seem like we're throwing stuff in the dartboard. Okay, all right, what's the emergency now? Let's fix it. Instead of a real plan that we can adjust, but it's a plan. And then also, you know, let's face it, in March, there's going to be people, new board members, and we're going to try to figure a way to have, you know, I'll call it you know, a legacy budget line items somehow, some way. I'm not sure if we can, but it'd be interesting to try to do something like that. But there will be board members on the board, so if we have wishes, hopefully those people can carry that forward to like, hey, let's continue the good work we're doing.
So that was a question asked from that committee. Yeah. I did see counsel on that, had to get some clarification on that question, but I believe you can have a line item in your local budget for capital improvements. Yeah. And if you didn't say like line item for track, like, and then all of a sudden you needed to do something catastrophic or
Something, an emergency comes up.
yeah, right.
The plumbing,
Well, you could, because you lined it. This is my interpretation of what the answer was, and why I'm seeking clarity. If you lined it for track, you couldn't pivot to the emergency, but if you lined it for capital improvement, yeah, then you've got some more flexibility. So that I am trying to get you some counsel on that.
I think that the key is that whoever's here next year, we have a lot of people up for election. Just don't screw it up. All right, let's not do that.
Like, just one other question we asked, and I'm not sure who's gonna find the answer to this, but we had 530,000 returned from the SU to the school, and we wondered if that could be moved into a capital improvement account without a vote from the board. What's the answer? Need a vote? Did that ask you offer?
Even with after committed money,
So any money that's been returned to you, you would have to go. My understanding is we'd have to go to a vote, but
a vote of this board or the taxpayers?
the taxpayers. But I am seeking more clarification. I just got those today, so. I'm
Yeah.
still-
Thank you.
All right. So all in all, a very productive meeting. And again, it's open to the public, open to everybody who wants to come. We have minutes posted as that comes. So it's documented meetings. Okay. Any other questions on that? I'm gonna move forward.
Yes,
update.
I have a question if you don't mind.
Go ahead, sir. Can you say your name, please?
Justin Fuller, Westminster. What is the plan for the high school road? I know the voters appropriated, I think it was $2 million to do that this year. Where does that lie?
The driveway is your question. I want to make sure I understand your question. You want to know when the driveway is being done. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Typically we don't respond, but we can. I believe that is this upcoming summer.
Okay, and that money is still there that the voters appropriated last year?
Correct.
Okay.
You haven't gone out. You haven't gone out.
we were approved to up to $2 million to get a bond.
But you have not gone out for a bond. Yeah.
That will be December, January.
Just want to make that clear. You are not paying any money on that or anything. time.
Okay, thank you.
Did you do that? Thank you, sir. Thanks for your questions.
Actually, just I have one other question. There was some debate as to, we have a capital improvement account now that's got roughly $1.2 million in it. And we were asking the question whether or not any of that had been allocated to any specific projects yet. And I don't know if you were asked that question.
I was asked that question, and they're not allocated to any specific project. However, in discussion, going back to board minutes, but also this is prior to when building and grounds weren't keeping board minutes. There was discussion that your HVAC system went from originally $1.8 million, and it was $3 million, and then all of a sudden it was $5 million. And the discussion was around ESSER might not be able to cover all of that and sort of hold that money in reserve to possibly cover that extra piece of it. But we're at a point right now where we're just starting to get bids back in on that HVAC project, which is why we haven't come back to say we want to actually allocate those funds back.
When do you think we'll know, whether that $1 million plus is needed for the HVAC or whatever?
I would suspect probably when Steve comes in, we'll have it.
On the 27th, I need some information.
Okay.
Great. Thanks for asking those questions. Okay. Yeah, thanks for having us ready for us, Andy. All right, up next, we have update on Milton Cat progress towards remediating generators and discussion of possible legal action if M&C had foreknowledge of their inability to complete satisfactory possible executive session legal matter. Dave, this is your ask. Can you?
My ask runs like this. The issue around the equipment that Milton Cat was supposed to recondition goes back at least halfway through the Broadley era. And we had, it's one of the things I do not hold against John. I think that he had a series of promises which were made by Milton Cat in terms of when they would get in here and address issues with our equipment. We've got to be at least a year and a half down the road from those initial discussions, and we find that we still do not have a completed project. It's my informal understanding that there are some controls or monitoring devices which our equipment has, which are obsolete, cannot be repaired, and I believe that that's why we have not completed those projects. I think we need to find out what the answers are here. And I also happen to feel that if Milton Cat has been unduly non-responsive to us, and if we have made progress payments, we need to have a discussion about how we're going to find some closure around this. I'm reluctant to waive the swords at a vendor who I think in the past has been reliable, but come on, let's go back to the Broadley era. Where's our closure? When's it going to come?
Kelly, can I ask, do you have any feedback for David?
No, I can't speak with a lot of specificity as to where or why, beyond the fact that Milton Cat, I don't believe the issue is with them per se. I think it's with whatever vendor they've been trying to source this particular part from. I think they share in our frustration about the lack of responsiveness in getting this last part. But I can't speak to where in the process or the timeline this part was originally put forward. And the conversation around that, again, that predates my time and Jeff's, so.
David?
I'll be blunt. If we contract the Milton Cat, it's a Milton Cat problem. And that's my bottom line.
So, Andy, go ahead.
So I have the original bid or on the project, and there was no discussion about fixing a generator. It was all around the circuit breaker. The generator upgrades that they listed on there was replacing existing voltage, provide load banking cables for tuning, and engine and switchgear tuning assistance. So there was nothing, is the original project was around the circuit breaker and how it interacted with the generator, not around this, I'll call it a catalytic converter kind of piece. That came after the fact, during the time that they were doing the work when Mr. Broadley had said that my recollection was something around, we can't get the certification because we don't have this part to be an emergency site. But Milton Cap was not originally asked to, that was not part of the original bid on the project.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding this. So we haven't paid for this part either.
No.
All right, we haven't paid for the part. We need this catalytic converter, so to speak, in order for us to be an emergency disaster center. But without it, it's still functioning correctly and all of that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, my, again, recollection was that because you don't have this, we're calling it a catalytic converter because we're not engineers and understanding it, but that's my understanding. It does something similar to a catalytic converter. But because you do not have that unit, the state wouldn't sign off on saying that you're an approved site. It runs, it operates effectively and everything. But that has been just the challenge of getting this part, and it's not a part that can be fabricated or anything of that nature. That is my understanding.
Anybody else have any questions? I'm not sure if we need an executive session for this.
Yeah.
Sounds like we need to look into it more. David, go ahead.
Well, I think we need to get some clarity from Milton Cat, who apparently we contracted with to begin with, as to how we solve the problem. If Milton Cat tells us that they cannot solve our problem, perhaps they can point us in the direction of an entity that can help us solve our problem. With an awful lot of money apparently into a system that we can't certify.
Can I ask you a favor, David? Can I ask you to put that into a shorter motion so we can vote on it and give some direction to the administration and go forward?
Okay. I move that we direct administration to seek an update from Milton Cat as to what steps will be necessary to certify our equipment.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion?
Kelly's hands up.
Oh, sorry, Kelly.
I don't know if we need that information prior to this.
Go ahead, Kelly.
I was just going to note two quick things. One, I think the primary holdup with our lack of a catalyst monitoring system is less about the ability to operate as an emergency shelter and more specific to our ability to participate in the demand response program as we had done historically. So in the absence of that, we can't partner with GMP and look at potential cost savings for the building. My understanding is that catalyst monitoring system doesn't have any bearing on, again, our ability to operate or be certified or permitted or anything like that. It's just really, if we want to go to this next level of rejoining that program, this is an integral part that we're required to have to ensure compliance. That's my understanding. We do work with someone by the name of John Hinckley from All Four Consulting, and he has been our primary kind of permitting consultant as it pertains to the generators and the boilers and helping the school get back into compliance on both fronts. So I just would name him as a potential resource to the board, maybe at a buildings and ground meeting, maybe at the full board meeting. But I would also name that we have reached out to Milton Cat. They understand if we want to rescind the order with them. Again, I feel they share in our frustration about the lack of updates from the supplier. In our last meeting with Steve Horton, we did ask if he had any other ideas for who might be able to partner with us. And so he was going to explore that on our behalf as well. So our next, I think, meeting with him is on the flip side of the holiday break on that Tuesday. I can reach out and see if he's got an update on that sooner. So just naming that those pieces were in motion and just wanted to provide that point of clarification as well.
Can I ask, Kelly, can I ask you a question before we vote? Do you want this building to do all those things with GMP and emergency response and all that? Or what's your pleasure?
I absolutely think that would be a valuable thing for the school to consider. Again, I think according to John Hinckley and those who are kind of in the know in terms of those types of programs, I think there's a significant cost savings to be had for the school if we can get the part. So I can ask John Hinckley in particular for some more, to kind of put some more updated numbers to what that could look like, if that's helpful for the board's thinking.
So if David rescinds his motion, that's something you would do whether we directed you or not, correct?
Correct.
Okay, David, what's your pleasure? Yes.
Okay, am I hearing a request to withdraw the motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'm willing to withdraw and I would like to speak to the withdrawal of the motion.
Please.
I'm pleased to hear that administration, at least building administration, feels this is a situation that can be negotiated. I will point out to the board that the reason that you want to do that is I'm talking about be able to work with Green Mountain Power is when there's very high demand on the system, which typically will occur during the winter. Green Mountain Power will charge us a vastly higher rate for electricity during those periods when we do not disconnect from their system at their request. So we are spending, based on past experience in this building, a substantial multiple of what it should cost us to make our system fully compliant. During the period of time, our system remains non-compliant. So I think it is an issue which has very substantial financial impacts on BFUHS. I think we need to clean it up.
Thank you, Dave.
But I withdraw my motion.
Thank you, sir. Any other feedback or anything? Sure. Thank you.
Jason,
yeah.
can you clarify that as to what is being done then?
So Kelly is going to, whether we have a motion on the floor to direct the administration or not, Kelly's gonna talk to John Hinckley, Steve Horton, and see what they can do to find out from Bill and Cat so that we can get this going and fixed.
So they're going to work with MCAT though, so we will have the answers that we need.
Yep. Yeah, or have maybe not the answers we need, but more answers than we have.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. 7D, set date 11/27/23 for guidance department report to the board. Listed this as an action item. And the reason why I put this on the agenda is we've asked more than a couple times for guidance to come and give us a report about, how things are going, staffing, the list goes, on and on. We want to, as a board, I know that we want to do things correctly. And I think we're all doing a great job of that. And I want to just, we have a lot of things coming up, like budgets and all those types of things, and we need their help. And, so it's no longer, a request. We'd like to see them. And so it's, an action item. So that is my motion. I would like, on November 27th, for the guidance department, to come to the board meeting and give us a report on the guidance department. Right?
Is it fair to ask Kelly if this is something that falls in line with her as a principal wanting guidance here to present to us, and if so, take that route versus, I just feel like doing a motion to have someone come to a board meeting seems a little bit harsh. And so I guess my question to Kelly is, as we have our listening tour and everything else, if the board wants guidance to come up, is that something you as a building administration or building administrator wants to see happen as we move forward? I guess for the budgetary process or
All of it.
all.
Yeah, all of it. I'd like Kelly to respond.
Okay.
Go first.
Yeah, I guess a couple things. One, there was the request from guidance to put forward, their contribution to the listening tour, which I did on their behalf. So I guess my first question about this potential motion is one around intent, and that the information that I felt the board was seeking was honored in a recent meeting. And I would also note that if there's budgetary needs, right, that are specifically tied to things that the school counseling team can answer, I think truly those answers are going to come through our work that we're doing with K-12. And the next meeting, I think as I've previewed and Andy's previewed in his superintendent report, that process is still very much ongoing. I'll be joining a handful of folks this Thursday, right, for that preliminary secondary report from K-12. We're not going to have an opportunity to meet as a guiding coalition until after the Thanksgiving holiday. So again, not knowing the specifics of what is at the root of this updated request, I'm inferring, right, it's more answers about schedule, right, for next year. And I would just reiterate that process is ongoing. It's part of a larger team. And I do not anticipate anything new being able to be provided on the 27th beyond what's already been, honored in the process. So I guess that's my answer in the absence of more clarity on the scope of the request.
Before David responds, or I respond, June, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that when I joined the board 2 years ago, we wanted all departments to come in and report to the board on how they thought things were going, what could help them. And then it fell by the wayside. So me personally, I want to take that on again and have all departments come and make a presentation, let us know how things are going. There are three of us that have kids here, so we kind of have some idea, but for the other 7 of you guys, you don't know. So that's my personal feeling.
Thank you. I'm just gonna, before I ask David, Kelly, I think you did a good job presenting for them. And for me, it's kind of like a telephone game where, they're giving you information, but then you're giving it to us. I kind of want to hear it right from them. That's only my intent. I think that, whether it's good or bad, their passion that they bring is just, different than yours. I mean, they probably see the kids individually more every day, and you're kind of, at the 50,000 foot view. So that was my intent. I just wanted to hear directly from them. That's all. David?
Thank you, Jason. Okay, I anticipate one of the discussions, which is likely to take place at guidance, Kevin helped the guidance table, at the budget table when we meet again, will be a discussion around whether we are going to take a closer look at class size policy, which is WNESU-wide policy. And I think that if we, as a budget committee, are going to give serious consideration to following the guidelines which are in policy for WNESU, that it would be extremely useful to know what guidance take is on it, because I think to a very large degree, many of those impacts will, be impacting guidance. I'd like to know what they think about it. And that's kind of my bottom line. And I appreciate the fact, Kelly, that you were tasked to represent them here over the summer and the fact that you did in fact do the best job you possibly could. I think that we need to have a discussion, around how policy in regard to class size is going to, one, impact budget, and two, impact, education here. So if you think you can do it without guidance, then I would be interested to hear your proposal, but I think it's a discussion that guidance ideally ought to be, involved with.
So, put a motion on the floor. Andy, do you want to, before we?
I don't disagree, with everything that's been discussed here. However, I do agree, strongly with June that, it's not just from one department, it's from all departments. Because budgetary impacts and class size impacts and, staff impacts don't just impact guidance or school counselors, but they impact each and individual department. And I think it would be, prudent, to hear from all departments and department chairs as opposed to just one small section. Yes, they have a good overview of what's going on. But in your analogy of telephone game, which I understand what you're saying, you got a department chair, voicing their concern, or teachers voicing their concerns to department chairs voicing their concerns to school counselors and to administration, which is then brought to you all. And, a decision potentially to increase class sizes in PE at one level may sound like a right reason, but there may be a reason that I'm unaware of that the PE department can answer better than even school counselor. So,
Well, valid points. So,
I don't think this should be in a form of a motion. I think it's important that we hear from all the departments, but it's always been on a set up schedule that the administration has simply set up a schedule and worked with the departments to see when they could come. Because there may be conflicting times that they have other responsibilities that impact their ability to come to a board meeting at a specific time that can be adjusted by doing that. If you're wanting it for budgetary reasons, it is important, like Andy just said to us, that we hear from all of them, and maybe we simply need to do a invitation rather than a motion, an invitation to all of the chairs to come to be able to discuss that with us. It's much more friendly put in that kind of a tone than demanding one department. Just a suggestion.
This one, I don't remember the question.
the question is to, on November 27th, have the guidance department, come to our board meeting and give us a report. Okay. Is there any other further questions or discussion? All right, we have a motion on the floor then. See you later. Rob?
No.
Okay. Jamie?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Deb?
No.
Priscilla? Yes, June, sorry.
Yes.
Darcy? Priscilla?
No,
David?
Yes.
All right, so I have 1, 2, 3 yeses, 1, 2, 3, 5 no's.
Yes, I know.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on. Superintendent report, informational.
Jason, I
Yeah.
would ask that we invite, please.
Sure. So Kelly, what we'll do is, for the next budget meeting, we will make an invitation to all of the chairs of the respective, departments to come. And hopefully, they can all come to the next budget meeting. And they're welcome to come to any meeting.
I have a meeting with them at 2:50 tomorrow, and I will absolutely relay the invite. I wholeheartedly support them coming. I just want to be clear about that. But I do like the approach of the invitation. So thank you for that, Priscilla.
Yeah, the goal again is to do things right, and, you know, we really want to hear from them, in regards to, you know, the policy that is already in the books as far as, class sizes. Thank you. Moving on, superintendent report, informational. Andy, could you update us on a new solutions K-12 scheduling, staffing study?
I have nothing to update. We have a meeting, as Kelly had indicated, to go over their initial findings, later this week. And then the guiding group that met with them earlier will be meeting, just after, I think, the first week in December, to kind of go over, that finalized report before it's really made public. So, kind of where we are with that.
Good. And, let's go.
We accept the question.
Yeah, let's do questions on this one first. Before we go next.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at a document called Project Timeline, which was part of, I think, roughly 63 pages, new solutions K-12 that arrived in our inboxes. I think it was this morning. And I'm looking at an item called Share and Discuss Findings, October, November. Bullet point says prepare a report of recommendations for improving secondary schedules, October. Share findings from engagement and analysis with school and district leaders, early November, where we are now, I think. Set priorities for what should be scheduled also in November. I'm making a very large assumption here that when the new solutions document says share findings from engagement and analysis with school and district leaders, that there's a strong possibility that the board is considered to be a district leader, or perhaps the district leaders. And given the fact that the new solutions K-12 timeline suggests that takes place in early November, I'm hopeful that we could get it soon, because this is early November.
Yes, yeah, please. So they're behind in their timeline.
Excuse me, sir?
They're behind in their timeline. That was, they put that document together, and we're slightly behind in that timeline. I do not believe that the indication when we talked to them was, when they're talking about district leader, they're talking about central office leadership. The intent was to share the information with the board, but they just did their interviews just in October, and they're compiling their information and their data. And so there's an initial meeting with our secondary administration and our central office team. And then they're gonna review that with us so we can make any recommendations to what we would like to see different in that report. And then we'll be providing that report out to the public. So we're about 2 weeks behind.
About 2 weeks behind. Okay.
I think what I spoke to at the beginning, that they're meeting with us this week. And then just after Thanksgiving, meeting with the larger group. So
Good. It was something to look forward to.
Will the board see it before the public sees it?
when the board sees it, the public will see it. I mean, once I've made a document available to the board, it's a public document. So. But as soon as we have it available, we will make sure that it is out to the board.
Jamie, do you have a question?
No.
Andy, I would like to offer an invitation to you to, as soon as you have some knowledge on this, new K-12 solutions to, get it out to us in the public as quickly as possible. So that, did everybody get a chance to read this, or skim through the 69 pages that came in Andy's report today? It's very, very enlightening, and there's a lot of stuff in here. I was going through it to see which pages, you go through stuff and I got that doesn't. Let me get to the meat and potatoes of it, and I couldn't get rid of any of it. So there's 69 pages of useful information in here for administration, for the boards, for the public. So I encourage everyone to, dig into that. And I really liked how they said, we got to be creative in how we make schedules and how we staff buildings. And, I kind of like that because it's not 1960 anymore, it's 2023, and we got new ways of doing things. So possible, who knows? All right, Andy, sorry, Jim.
I just have a question on the PCBs. Do you have any idea when we're gonna start source testing?
I don't believe Kelly, is that, yeah, she can answer.
Sure. So when I spoke to Greg and Evan Thursday, Friday, it sounds like, well, I guess a couple things. We got permission to recalibrate the carbon filters in the C-wing beginning today, which means that they will come back and retest the air just in the C-wing sometime, I think around the 29th or 30th of November. And that's just to make sure that the reduction in those filters is still having an actionable impact on that space, kind of like what we saw in the D-wing. The University of Iowa is picking up their samples this Friday. Those samples, I think if memory serves me, take about 4 to 6 weeks to begin processing. The results of that are going to inform Greg and Chris's work with VHB or through VHB to then do the source of investigation work, I believe, beginning right around the new year. So once they have that data set in hand from the University of Iowa, again, that's going to give them really good intel on not only potential sources, but which of the potential sources is contributing the most PCBs to air quality, which will help VHB to really hone in on the most likely culprit of what's contributing to the problems in our building. They will also be back in February for quarterly air sampling of the full building. That's the current timeline, barring any other, I'll call it hiccups to the process. But as of Friday, that was the latest.
Thank you.
And the update on availability of ESSER funds for high school infrastructure projects.
Yeah, so currently, what we have allocated in ESSER, or our ESSER, is for the science project wing, there's $1,350,000 allocated. And for the HVAC system, there's $3,017,275. What we continue to do is, as we go through on a monthly basis of looking at ARP and with the business office, is any dollar that we can we don't need allocated for another project, we push into these two projects so that we can get as many dollars into that. I have a meeting with the state later this week. Just because of the complexity of our projects, we've got to do a lot of explaining to them of how we're looking at doing them. But again, the bids haven't been finalized yet. And so having a final, where are we on things, to then come back to the board and say like, hey, this project is, $900,000. Would you like us to allocate funds to go ahead and move forward on that project? We're just not at that point yet. But that's currently where we are.
Any questions on that? David?
Yes. I did read the superintendent's report, and I believe that it, among other things, Andy said that Steve Horton was working on soliciting bids. I have no idea what's going on with other school districts. I believe that this board did, authorize a request to, go out for the creation of bid specs for HVAC. And I believe that ME Engineering, got that bid to produce bid specs. And I'm uncertain as to whether this board actually has ever authorized going out to bid on HVAC. So I'm hoping we can get some clarity around that, if not tonight, in the very near future. I spent quite a bit of time reading through the new solutions K-12 reporting, and did not have as much time as I hoped I would, so I could go back and search the minutes looking for those items. I imagine that if we're going to do something in science, that we will need to create bid specs for the science renovation project. And then once we have received bid specs, we will need to agree as a board to put that project out to bid. So I appreciate the work Steve Horton is doing, but I have to say I have some confusion in my own mind as to just exactly where we stand in that process. So if there's anyone at the table who knows if and when this board actually put HVAC out to bid, I would love to know about it. And if no one does, it's fine. I'll go home tonight and start going back through the minutes and looking for it.
So David, my recollection was when we as a collective SU went out for looking at construction management projects, that was part of the overall bid was to do those two projects. And that was that construction management team that won the bid for that. That was part of their projects was to do the HVAC and to get specs and to get bids on what those projects will be. We're still waiting on them. They got put on hold because of PCBs. So we're just at the point where we're just now getting them. So when Hutter, which is the company, they're using the M&E bid specs that were authorized by this board to go out, and they've been getting bids based on those bid specs that you all paid $160,000 for to move forward with that bid spec.
Okay, I guess there's still some confusion in my mind. It's not clear to me that this board has ever actually authorized putting the proposed renovation out to bid based on the bid specs that this board did authorize. Are you suggesting, Andy, that the supervisory union has put the high school HVAC out to bid?
So David, I don't know that specifically. I can say that I have spoken almost monthly about the projects and how much the projects are going to cost and what we're trying to do. Nobody has said don't do that. In fact, my understanding is the consensus of the board is to continue to move forward with the projects. I repeatedly tried to update the board on a consistent basis of what things are. No one has ever said, where are the bid specs? We need to vote on these things. We brought it to the board. These are the costs that will be forward. We had, at least I believe that we had consensus and direction from the board to move forward on those. And at no time, and so I guess I apologize because at no time did anyone ever say, hey, wait a minute, stop. We got to go back and authorize this, because we were moving forward looking at large projects to bring in that, and that was part of the whole bigger bid was to move forward. And if this board had a concern, I would have expected that the board would have voiced some concern over a year ago when we started to go out to bid.
Andy, what I'm hearing, are you suggesting in so many words this board has not authorized putting HVAC out to bid?
It's quite possible that you have not voted to go out to bid. I mean, we've said that this is the cost of the project, would you like us to move forward? And it was my understanding that yes, we would be moving forward with that project.
Well, with all due respect to the agenda and members' time, I think it'd be very useful if we could get a legal opinion as to whether this board does in fact have an obligation to authorize bidding on a capital project of that scope and magnitude. Because I think it would be an awful big mistake to find out down the road that we have to go back to square one with ESSER funding running out on us very quickly. So I am suggesting that it would behoove us to understand what the implications are of not having authorized a bid for HVAC.
So are you, I'll make sure I'm understanding your question. Are you suggesting we take a motion to seek legal counsel for this, or are you?
I'm reluctant, based on our previous discussions tonight, to put it in the form of a motion. I think that much as we request input from the departments, including guidance here at the high school, in the budgeting process, I think that it's appropriate to request that administration seek legal guidance as to whether we have a legal obligation to formally put the project out to bid.
So, Priscilla, before I answer is your question what David is? I was gonna ask Andy a question.
It has to do.
Fire away then.
I think there's some convoluted stuff here that we're not considering. This is an ESSER project. We as a board voted 1.5 of our million of our capital improvement fund to go for this project as well. As backup for that in case we needed it. So we've done that. Haven't we also voted on Horton being in charge of going ahead with getting bids and that kind of thing? Have we done that as this board? I know we've done that as the SU board. So if we've also done that as this board, some of that could cover us as well. That's just additional information that might impact on some of these things. I think where it got somewhat mixed up is because it's ESSER funding to begin with, and so that ESSER funding has been through grants through the SU. And so we as board members going to the SU also voted on all of those things. So we were represented in that, but like David says, it's a question as to whether we also just need a backup vote from this board. This way I'm looking at what David said, whether we need.
Andy, can I, thank you, Priscilla, David. Andy, can I ask you, how much of a time suck would that be to, so not that much, okay. Does that satisfy you, David? So,
Yeah.
all right, let's do that, and then we'll kind of move forward. And hopefully we can put all of that to bed, so we can support Rob. So,
Andy, just full transparency, the science lab, the science wing, is that 100% ESSER money?
Yeah.
Okay. That's,
thank you both on that. Andy, anything else on, your report, or
Not on ESSER funds.
anything else in general you want to go over, or? You're back again Wednesday live, to go over it again if you want, everybody else is going?
Yeah.
All right. All right, excellent. Up next, we have a couple very generous donation requests. Kelly, I was hoping you could kind of let us know what they are so we could vote on those. You don't mind?
Sure. I don't have the exact letters in front of me, but I know one. Does someone have that copy of the letter? I know one came from Larry Slauson and a client that he represents. There was a $4,000 donation that was made to our athletics program. Can someone read who that was from?
So I can read that for you. I have that email in
Thank
front of me. Says, Dear Kelly, our office represents River Charities Incorporated. Enclosed, please find our client's check in the amount of $4,000 payable to Bellas Falls Union High School, representing its contribution in support of sports activities. Very truly yours, Salmon and Nostrum. Larry Slicey.
Thank
I
you.
would like to offer a motion.
By the way, David.
My motion is to accept the generous donation of $4,000 from River Valley's charities.
All those in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, so moved. Thank you, everybody. And then we have one more, Kelly. Can you go around? I actually don't have that one in front of
We
me.
didn't
Somebody
get
else
that
does.
one in our packet.
Yeah, sure. So that one was more I guess it's seeking forgiveness, not so much permission, in the sense that there were many generous families who made a donation to support our football team, having a private coach to the semifinals about a week and a half ago. And I think a number of families had pooled those donations, and our Rebecca had received a number of checks from various families to support that. There was one check that had come in over that $1,000 threshold. So one family, I think, made a larger contribution. There it is right there. And that was either on behalf of a handful of families. Anyways, that check came in over that threshold after the trip had happened. So I think that Monday after that Friday trip. So that's where this is coming into play. That's just I guess a formal acknowledgement of the generosity of those families for that support, if that makes sense.
The check is from Rockingham Charities Limited. It's made out to the Bellas Falls Union High School for $1,250 for the football bus, and I cannot make out the gentleman's signature. Maybe Wayne. Jude?
So you said you received that after we paid for the bus, or the parents had paid for the bus? So
That was
this is
my-
in addition?
No, that's to go towards the bus, just that they those checks were coming in. And I think that one came in either the day of or that following Monday to our attention, if that makes sense. So we had already booked the bus and gave permission and supported the families in doing that. And this was just kind of a late arriving contribution for that.
So did we get enough for
Yes.
with the parent donations to pay for the bus?
That is my understanding, yes. It's just that this one check happened to come in over $1,000, and that's why we're just following process and bringing that to your attention.
Would you like to make that motion? Darcy, would you like to make that motion?
Sure, make a motion to accept the check from Rockingham Charities for $1,250.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Hey Kelly, I like the style of begging for forgiveness. Just do it. I like it.
Just wanted to be clear about what I was doing.
So just, we have a protocol that if a donation comes in over $1,000, the board is supposed to accept it. It can be after the fact, but.
Okay.
But typically, we just like to let the boards know, because if people are donating money, you all should know. So,
Very generous by those people. So
So
as a chair, I thank those people who did that. So very, very nice. All right, moving on. So we have a resignation. And for this one, we will need executive session. Deb, can I ask you to bring us into executive session?
Yeah.
it'd actually be a contract.
Yeah, okay. That's all I'm. Which one's the
Wing it.
contract, yeah, okay, all right, I move that the board enter executive session to discuss a contract matter. where it's clearly stated that, exactly, that, premature, knowledge by public would consider a possible disadvantage or the, privacy of the person in question. Let's see, where it is. That would basically be it, I'm trying to say, Title 1, Section 3.
All right, so we have executive, so the motion for executive session, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Like administration or?
Well, yeah.
Yes,
And executive administration.
Give me a second, we don't have to read.
we'll get better on it now.
Okay, oh, and I'm sorry, the contract piece requires a second motion, which is I moved it.
So. You're up.
Okay, and we are back out of executive session, we work for time. So, Andy, if I could I have you explain, what,
Yeah, let me
Resignation is that?
pull up the actual, so I can speak to it really clearly. Help me, Kelly, the name just went right out of my head.
Susan Speranza.
Susan Speranza, who is your school librarian, has submitted her resignation effective June 30th. And she submitted that resignation. Of course, I'm not gonna find it what they're trying here.
Before August,
August
October.
30th, I think.
It's section 16.6 of the collective bargaining agreement, which is retirement incentives. And so it's a teacher who is at least 50 and has at least 20 years of service in the district, who announces their retirement and has enrolled in the district's 403 plan shall be eligible for a $7,500 retirement stipend. And the teacher must make the application for retirement stipend on or before October 1st. And so we're just bringing it to you a little late. I apologize. It just, she had submitted that on time and we just didn't get it on the agenda earlier.
so I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, everything is done, the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. Any questions for Andy?
They're completing the year though, they're.
Yeah, so they have to complete the year and then it's paid out on October 1st. So that's all spelled out in 16.6.
By August 1st, it's paid by August 1st.
So,
We need a motion.
we need a motion on this, correct, Andy? Correct, all right, can I get a motion for some?
Yeah, and make a motion that we accept Susan Speranza's letter of resignation effective June 30th, 2024. And pay her the stipend that she is eligible for.
All right, all those, motion on the floor, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None, Let's have it. Congratulations, Ms. Miranda.
Thank you for your
Good luck.
service.
Thank you. All right,
Didn't say that, I should have.
so we're skipping athletic director information, on, so we're on committee updates. Priscilla, here we have some new policies we need to take action on.
Yes, we have two policies that were warned on 9/22/23, the selection of library materials and the selection of instructional materials. They should have been in your packet so that you could read those. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, let me do a motion first. I move that we approve policy 322, selection of library materials in 323, selection of instructional materials.
Motion on the floor, any questions? Yeah,
I just have one. It says in the policy that schools with over 300 students shall have at least one full-time library media specialist and sufficient staff to implement a program with that supports literacy. Is that a WNESU policy? That's a state
It's a
policy,
state
of course.
requirement.
Thank you.
subtle.
Well,
All right, so there's a motion on the floor, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, Priscilla's motions? Opposed? All right, motion is passed, and Priscilla, again, thank you for all you do with that.
We will have
And-
another policy from fundraising that will be, if it has not been posted already, it will be posted. We also have a condom on for condoms because those are required in our schools now by the state. And for Narcan that are being put in there, so if you watch for those on the website.
And those are gonna be coming down next month.
We should be coming down, we approved them in September, at September's meeting.
Can you get those
And
to
we had to,
pull out?
the condom and the Narcan one had to go to our attorney for venting because it wasn't printed out from the state one. The fundraising one was already printed out, that we could just adjust slightly and make it applicable to our schools, so that we didn't have to go to the attorney. It already been vetted by the state. But those should be posted shortly if they have not been on.
Right, thank you, Priscilla. All right, up next we have norms, possible action, so we have a norms committee, and that's June Robbins, Jamie, and who'd like to speak on what you guys come up with?
I can start the discussion. So our committee met, we reviewed the survey that we put out to this board that had ideas for goals and norms. We took that survey, we reviewed it, and the goals and norms that you all rated those that participated. The ones that floated to the top got the highest rating. We have put together in a document and present to you all now, and that is what you are seeing here. I would like to make a motion that we move to accept the goals and norms listed here, and we adopt them. I don't know if I said that right, but I would like to make a motion to adopt the norms and goals that have been voted on.
Any discussion? Yep,
this is the first time we've seen them. I mean, first time seeing them this week. I don't think that I think that some of them are concerning to me, definitely. And the goals, I think that these are more college leaning. That there's nothing in here about tech schools or kids who are not heading for college. You've got that right there. Yeah, where are we? Number 2, yep. And that, to me, that is not where we have been moving forward on, talking about alternative locations to college, and that's what schools typically do. That is what's been done in the past for decades and decades, but that's not really where students are moving these days and these years. I think that ought to be altered. So just because, just that one, not to mention, I would prefer to see some of the background data on the norms. I would think we should move this to the next, give us a couple of weeks to run it around in our heads, ask additional questions and that sort of thing. I know, I'm concerned about some of the way the norms are worded, they're almost insulting. Not necessarily me personally, but maybe to some people who these look like they're pointedly pointed at. So I would think that we could use a couple weeks to review them, just so we can think about how they impact us, what we think about them in the future. I don't think we go into one meeting, having just seen them, just like the policies, and we don't have an opportunity to wait.
So is, I wanna make sure I'm hearing you, are you suggesting? Are you suggesting a table or?
I'm suggesting we put them on the next meeting, 27th, giving us an opportunity to perhaps go over, and I can do a whole list of things that I have questions on and send them to the notes committee and see what comes back. Am I the only person in the crowd here who thinks that that's a good idea? But that's what I'm asking.
I have an opinion, but I'd like to hear from Rob first.
Yeah.
And then yourself.
Yeah, so, when this committee met, we solicited feedback from everyone on this board. Put everything that was said to us, went out on a survey for you all to vote. So really, this is a collective, the results that you see are a collective response from those that filled out the survey. So to say you haven't received this has been going on for a little bit over a month now, where we've communicated, we've asked for feedback, we sent out a survey, we numbered the survey, we reviewed the survey, and that's why we're bringing this forward. You know, I think I can't speak for the norms, but from a goal standpoint, this is something this board should have had done one of the first meetings on the reorganization. That's in March. And we are now talking about this in November. And I do understand that March is right around the corner and we're gonna have to do this again, but at least it gives us, similar to our buildings and grounds, 3 to 5 year plan of what's going on. It gives the next board a template, and they don't have to want any of it. But this is what you're seeing on this document is a collection of information from everyone on this board. And voted on.
I'd like to respond to that if I may.
Is
You.
that okay?
You agree with that? And my response is, did the entire board get a copy of your results with all the weigh-ins? I mean, this is what you come up with, but based upon that, do we all know how these weighed in as far as, you know, number 1 choice, number 2, number 6, so on and so forth? Did you send us the feedback?
No,
all
but
of us review?
I can address that if you'd like me to.
Well, if you verbally address it, I actually won't be able to see it. That's why I'm asking for you today. That was one, and that's my only response to what Ron said.
All right, we got lots of questions. Priscilla had her hand up first, so go ahead, Priscilla.
I really appreciate all the work that the, members of that committee did, and I feel that they have gone through, and as they said, they have weighted them according to our requirements and what we put and what we decided. I would also like to address the fact that my colleague over there said, commented on number 2 goal. It says career ready. And that's what our recovery team actually came up with. That's almost the exact same thing that is in their what is it?
It's in the mission statement.
What is it? What's it called?
So it's part of our,
Their procedure, not that procedure.
part of our recovery plan,
Yeah.
but it's also the state's college career readiness is the state's language.
Yeah.
That's how the state.
But how does, okay, and then how do you respond to kids who
Let me
want to go to
finish,
tech school?
please.
I'm sorry.
That's called, that's
That's
called
the-
a career.
that's career ready.
Career
It's
readiness.
the state
They're
core,
ready
that's all.
because they're ready to go out, and once they graduate, they're ready to take on a career, job, position, anything that's related to those 2 things. So that does cover that totally, and is in keeping with what our guidelines were for the recovery and from the state. I would like to comment on the 7th norm, because yes, I hear what you're saying, and I see the way it's written, and I think it's fine. But do keep in mind, as a board chair, I'm very familiar with this concept, because as a board chair, you are chair at the meeting. You are responsible outside of the meeting only for what the board has directed or the board has given you permission to do. You should not be doing anything else outside of the meeting. You are just like any other member of the board, and all of us are only members of this board at this meeting and only have authority at a meeting. That is a really clear concept. Outside of the meeting, you are a community member. You are not a board member. And if you're on a committee, then you're on that committee as a board member, yes, and you're serving at that time. But keep in mind, that's an important concept that people have not been paying attention to. And that's one reason why some of these things are important. A lot of these things are addressed in our policies. A lot of them have not been even followed in our policies. So having these norms for the board, I think is a good thing. Thank you.
Carson?
Good.
Good.
I just wanted to, point out that we didn't pick and choose which norms and goals. We took the top 7 ranked norms and put it on this list. And we took the top 5 goals that people here voted on, and put them as our goals. So I just wanted to point out, we didn't pick and choose. You guys picked and choose who participated in the goals.
Jamie, can I ask you some questions as the chair of this
Mhm.
committee? How many of us board members filled out the survey?
I'm gonna fill out the survey. I can tell you how many people voted. I can't remember how many filled out the survey. 5 people voted. And probably 5 people filled out the survey.
So half, right?
Yeah,
Why is that?
some people decided it was the work of the committee, and chose not to participate, and some people did not participate.
Why did I not fill it out?
How would we know?
I didn't know that.
It's anonymous.
Telling you right now. So I asked, and I sent it to everyone, I asked that we resend it and jumble up the questions. I sent it to Kate, and because she sent it to the Bellasville Junior High School Board, which went to Stacy Shaughnessy, Ricky Adams, and some other people that are on that email list, not board members. So how do we know that of those 5 people, some of those people didn't fill it out? How do we know? Because it was never resent, so that's why I didn't fill it out. So that's why I'm kind of leery of passing this. And the other thing for me, and I credit the work you did, because it's not easy. It's time consuming, and time is super valuable. But like, if I'm looking at the goals, I don't really see 1 through 4. I think 5 is perfect. But I don't like, how do you measure improved collaboration with the supervisor union and Bellas Falls Union High School administration to ensure that we are working for the stakeholders of our communities and the growth of our students as they prepare for life? How do you measure that? What's the checking points that, I mean, if you're writing a goal, we gotta write specific, measurable, attainable, and you'd be able to track it. So it's just a question. That's why I personally don't like it.
I think not every goal has to be, something that you can measure in that moment. I think they can be goals that we want to attain. You know, when it comes to collaboration, I mean, some things can be including people in, meetings and getting tabs on different things that are happening. We can strive for these things without being like, oh, we increase participation by 30%. So I think there are ways, we shouldn't shy from goals that we can't, get hard numbers on and have data on. I think it's important to have some goals that are lofty and things that we're striving to achieve.
So I agree with what you're saying. So one of the charges that have been brought to our attention, right, is that we're not good team players. However, like, is that still gonna be the thing 5 years from now? How are we gonna know that we're better team players?
You can take that goal and make it specific and ask for something to be done.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
But you have to have the goal in order to figure out the second layer of that, whether you do a survey or a listening tour or something like that.
Right. And so, and then the other thing for me is, I got two more, bear with me. So Wednesday, there, Cheryl has on her agenda of the WNESU is the, forgive me, Andy, what, it's the,
No,
not the norms.
the bylaw.
So Cheryl's coming out with bylaws that we're gonna be voting on, which then goes to each board. And then we're gonna have other bylaws, so then. If that passes, which I assume it will, because those are bylaws that are already written, that we're gonna vote on, and then have to go to each board, Rockingham board, this board. Westminster board, at the vote on them, so then there's gonna be yet again, more bylaws, and then you have these. And then we also have the handbook that we, we try to follow, so it's just, seems like a lot of. To me, it seems like a lot of rules.
So if I could just offer some clarification. The SU board cannot vote on the bylaws, those have to be voted on by the member districts. They give the power to the SU board. So you won't be voting on them, but you will be looking at them again and agreeing that you want to take them back to your local boards.
So then,
Those bylaws are governing for the SU, not for this board. Each board yearly is supposed to establish goals and those norms for each board. So in March, when we do our reorg, each board is supposed to vote or is supposed to establish goals. And they might be looking at their goals from the year before and saying, yeah, we want to continue those goals or establish new goals. Typically for boards, those goals are more lofty, as Jamie was saying, they're things you're striving for and obtaining. There may be some very specifics. We want to do X this year. And so that's something. So it's again, just the establishing of some goals is not for each board is not out of the norm. It's actually what you're supposed to do as part of your governance. And then also what is recommended is that boards do self-evaluations or 360s on a regular basis to get that feedback from their constituents, not necessarily just, internally within themselves. So, and I think back in March, I encouraged all boards to try and work towards establishing some goals. It's been challenging. I'm not gonna, sugarcoat that. It's been challenging to get boards to really hammer down. I think there's one or two boards that really have some long-lasting goals. And I'm only speaking selfishly when as administration, when we're trying to move forward, knowing where the goals are, it helps direct us in what we're bringing and what we're looking for. So that's the only reason why I will always encourage that there be goals, because those goals are the goals that you want to set forth for this building. And you talk about a legacy with a capital improvement. That's one of that could be a goal that we will, that we will establish a capital improvement plan and we'll constantly work for it. That helps drive those decisions. So I don't want you to think that it's extra work. It's work you're supposed to do.
No, so I agree with that, and I'm fully on board with goals. I live my life by goals. But so I guess I'm asking the committee here, consider taking your motion off the floor, take these back and write some specific goals, like provide support and opportunities necessary to ensure that all Bellows Falls Union High School students are college and career ready and receive the appropriate individual support needed to reach graduation requirements. So to me, in my brain, I'm thinking if one person doesn't get out of school, we fail. And yes, that is true. We did fail. So we look at our numbers last year. You know what I mean? So I'm just asking for more specifics, and I want to do them. I just would like it to be better. Rob?
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to get frustrated by this. This committee has solicited feedback from every member of this board receive that feedback, went another step, put it in a survey. I don't know how more simple we can do this. The other way, which I've done in previous years, is we all do this together, which is how I've been a part of boards, so that we can have that dialogue, that we can have those conversations, because those are important and valuable. But this board voted to have a committee, and so this is the work of the committee via every member's input from this board. And so for that, I would like to put him, Jamie, did you have a motion?
Yes.
There's a
I
motion
voted
on
to
the
vote,
floor.
yeah.
The motion is on the floor. And if I could just speak to your question, Rob, it's not every member did it. You said every member has done this, not only half.
Every member had
Opportunity.
multiple opportunities to give input to this process.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Is there anything else we just wanna?
I'd like to comment that we have these for basically 3 months out of the year. If we put this off, we're down to maybe having them for 2 months. You're
Valid point.
looking at something for 3 months that certainly all of us should be able to live with.
Valid
They
point.
worked really, really hard. And I appreciate them.
Anybody else? All right, motion on the floor. Take a vote. Dave?
Yes.
Priscilla?
No,
I'm sorry?
no,
What, could we ask what the motion
Could
is
you read-
again?
Yeah.
The motion on the floor.
It's
Can
to
you-
adopt
to
the
adopt the
no,
goals
the
and-
motion is to take.
No, we didn't do.
No,
No,
yeah,
that was,
she
no, I
made-
asked that.
Didn't make one?
That's why I just wanted to
Okay,
clarify.
okay, then I vote yes.
You wanted to.
David, take two.
I know, I like, yeah, sorry about that, I was supposed to, because he said to table, and I'm going, no, I don't want to table.
David? You wanna do these norms?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes,
Darcy?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Deb?
No,
Mike?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes,
Rob?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you for your time. Committee.
Thank you.
All right. Where are we here? Negotiations, informational possible executive session. So we had a, June, who's on the negotiations? And
Priscilla.
did you lock us
I'm
off?
rocking.
Not lost the screen.
Oh,
You're gonna start the meeting over?
No,
Yeah.
no, they're still on, that's what I mean.
Swing,
Hang on.
continue?
Stealth executive.
They're still on, you just can't see them here.
Yeah, go ahead.
What happened?
Sorry, I just.
Oh, you know what I did? I lost the, I lost the connection to the board.
Oh.
Is no one in here?
No, you're not in executive session.
But
That's
is
right.
there anyone in here that can hear?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear you. I lost the board, I didn't lose the Zoom.
okay.
That word, not us.
All right, so we can just continue.
Yeah.
So Priscilla,
I just,
Mike,
So June, sorry, who's in negotiations?
Priscilla, Mike, and myself.
That's for high school?
No,
No, Mike is
So
high
you're-
school. I'm SU and Priscilla's Rockingham. Right? So,
You said you're WNSU
yes. So Mike's our representative.
for high school in Rockhampton. Okay, so we had a meeting last week. I think we need to go into executive session if we're gonna be talking about that.
I would recommend.
So,
Oh, here we go.
so as far as, people going into executive session now. So I would feel uncomfortable with Rob going into executive session with us.
It's teacher.
David?
I think it would be appropriate to ask Rob what Rob's feelings are about it.
I apologize.
Thank you, David. I would like to be in executive session if if it's dealing with teacher contracts, I will remove myself from discussion and voting.
You just can't discuss or vote.
Just informational, right?
Able to hear. Besides which, we shouldn't be having much to say at this point anyway.
We really don't.
Yeah.
We met, that's it.
Probably what we
All
need
right,
to
so
say,
let's,
we could say in
let's,
open session, so
No. so-
I'm just saying we could without it being really that much of a problem, but
Jim, can you bring us into executive session?
I move that the board enter into executive session to discuss teacher negotiations. And in pursuant to Title I, Section 313A, under 1, negotiation or securing real estate or lease options, BSA.
no.
No?
No.
She's trying,
Priscilla, if you want to make that motion?
she's trying.
Here, let me see. Yeah, I know she is, but it's not lease options, dear. Just
But
say-
it's all
just say-
together.
Just say
It's
negotiation.
inclusive, yeah,
Just
just say
say
negotiation.
negotiation.
Okay. I move that the board enter into executive session to discuss negotiations. And where public, where's
Or
that?
contempt.
That's on the upside.
Where premature general public knowledge of the teacher negotiations will clearly place the municipality at a substantial disadvantage.
Who do you want to bring into executive session? You want administration to go into executive session?
I don't think they need to. No.
So no
Make
administration.
Andy run out of the room, so you're saying.
Yeah, that's
Good.
fine.
He's involved in negotiations, so. And it would have been number 8, labor relations.
executive session and,
Executive
no
session.
action, will be taken. All right, up next, 8B, WNESU budget update info, Mike.
Sure, we had the SU Finance Committee meet last week. Jim Messina provided his latest version and his latest version of the budget. And I'm concerned. I mean, I don't know how else to put it.